everyone, and welcome to Spielberg. We are at the Red Bull Ring in Austria, and we're thrilled to be here. It's definitely been a very exciting day yesterday with a very turbulent race. Let's see what today brings, and who knows if the weather is going to play a vital role again. Fact is, with me is Gary Paffett starting in pole position, which is fantastic. You are 9 points behind Paul di Resta at the moment. Obviously, only 3 races to go. It is all about the championship. So what's your feeling and what do you say about the weather? Let's hope it stays dry, right?
Yeah, it was a difficult day yesterday, but yeah, we're still very much in the fight, and obviously starting from pole gives us the best chance to go and try and win the race today. The weather should be more stable. I mean, it's very cloudy, but the forecast says no rain, but up in the hills of Spielberg, you never really know. So we don't expect any rain, but we have to be prepared for anything, basically. But we're feeling good, and obviously starting on pole is the best place to be.
Absolutely. Well, best of luck for the race. Thank you so much, Gary. And I hate to say it, I do feel a bit of dribbles, but let's not. I do, but never mind. All right. So now to the commentator.
Thank you very much. Well, Verena, our meteorologist down there, slightly concerned that maybe there is some rain in the air. Gary Paffett, of course, has done a brilliant job in qualifying. Andreas there you can see on screen, but as I was saying, Gary has done a fantastic job in qualifying, put the car P1, exactly what he needed to do. He needs to bank as many points as possible and of course convert that P1 into the race win. Can he do that? Well, 55 minutes plus 1 lap is what we've got to wait to find out as we get an overhead shot of this fantastic Red Bull Ring track here in Spielberg in Austria. It is a fantastic facility, it has to be said, and a lot of people here to enjoy the DTM race action to come, and there just a couple of fans making their way down the grid now. It's always a very populated place. So there you can see Eduardo Mortara. There is Loic Duval, and Loic Duval there with Ernst Moser. All systems go then. The order is going to be Paffett and Muller, P1 and P2. So Mercedes and Audi, then it's Paul di Resta and Pascal Wehrlein, ahead of Joel Eriksson and Timo Glock, the best of the BMWs. Then René Rast, who of course is P3 in the Drivers' Championship at the moment, chasing hard and of course victorious yesterday with an assist, it has to be said, from the likes of Mike Rockenfeller and Nico Muller. But nonetheless, Rast is P3 in the championship, still within a chance of sealing the championship. But Gary Paffett is P2 in the Drivers' Championship. The leader is, of course, Paul di Resta. Paul di Resta is starting from P3 on the grid. So what can Audi do today? Well, the head of DTM for Audi, head of motorsport, in fact, is Dieter Gas.
And I'm here with Dieter Gas. Now you've got Nico Müller in P2, which is good, but obviously all eyes are on René Rast, who unfortunately is in P8, and he's 3rd in the championship. So what are you going to do? Do you have a bit of magic down your sleeve, or what are you going to do to bring him all the way forward?
Well, first of all, René has already picked up a position. He's starting P7. He qualified 8, but due to the penalty of Mortara, he will start in P7, which is further in front than he was yesterday. So we all know it's going to be another long race here. A lot of things can happen. René has a strong race pace. He has a very good race intelligence. We have Nico there up in the front in the mix with the 2 other championship contenders. He will obviously try everything to leave both of them behind, because that will be a big help for René as well if we take points away from them. So that will be the target, and then we hope that we have a clean and successful race.
I'm sure. Best of luck. Thank you very much, Dieter Gas, and back to you.
Good to hear from Dieter Gas and what his plans are with regards to strategy going forward as we look at Bruno Spengler now. Bruno Spengler qualifying P15. So, as Dieter Gas suggested, Nico Muller is right in the mix between the 2 championship contenders at the moment, Paffett and di Resta. As we look at Lucas Auer, his qualifying time of 1:24.133. His qualifying session was compromised by a fault with the car. Just at the start of qualifying, it ran all right in free practice, or it seemed to, but then his qualifying session, it seemed to not get out of the garage, and then we saw the engineers inside the car working on the car, so his qualifying session was compromised. We're looking at Mike Rockenfeller now, who has qualified P13. Of course, Mike Rockenfeller was on the podium yesterday, taking that P2 place. So Mike Rockenfeller, and there we can see Jamie Green then going from P12 on the grid. The head of the DTM and the ITR organisation is one Mr. Gerhard Berger.
and I'm here with the DTM boss Gerhard Berger. As an Austrian, I guess, you're especially excited to be here in Austria, in Spielberg. And all in all, looking around, I mean, so many people, and it's getting so tight now towards the end of the championship. So how happy are you with the direction the DTM is going at the moment?
Well, first, emotionally, of course, I always like to be in Austria in front of the Austrian fans. But at the end of the day, for me, it's important that the DTM finish another good season, and it looks like we're going to see a good finish. I don't think we will know the champion until the last race. So that's very important for a championship. And I would say the races are extremely exciting. Yesterday we saw a great race. It was super to watch. And that's exactly what TTM stands for.
Fantastic, and we're looking forward to another exciting race. Thank you very much, Gerhard Berger, and back to you.
So Gerhard Berger then, as he said, we had a stunning race yesterday. Let's hope we have the same today. Gary Paffett goes from P1 on the grid. Nico Müller is alongside him for P2. Paul di Resta, leading the Drivers' Championship, goes from P3. He's got Pascal Wehrlein as his wingman alongside him, P4. Then we find a brace of BMWs, two together, Joel Eriksson and Timo Glock, P5 and P6. Joel Eriksson with a very good qualifying. René Rast, P3 in the Drivers' Championship, chasing hard, goes from P7. He has Daniel Juncker-Deyer going from P8. Edo Mortara and Philipp are on the 5th row of the grid, going from P9 and P10, ahead of Robin Freins and Jamie Green, who occupy the 6th row of the grid for the second race here at Red Bull Ring this season. Mike Rockefeller and Lucas Auer, P13 and P14. And then it's Bruno Spengler and Augusto Farfus, P15 and P16, ahead of Marco Wittmann and Lloyd Duval, who are going from the 9th row of the grid. And of course, our guest driver in Mercedes-Benz, it's Sébastien Ogier, who is going from P19 on the grid. So, handshake for Dieter Gas there from Gerhard Berger, the chairman of the DTM. And of course, all our focus and thought process towards how the championship is going to end up. And as Gerhard has suggested, he thinks it will go to the final race of the season. We hope so. In the team standings, Mercedes are 310 points, as you can see, with AMG Motorsport Petronas. Remus is 278 points, and Silverfile Energy 256 points before we find BMW Team RMR in P4 in the team's standings. Daniel Juncker-Deyer yesterday, well, we thought he was going to win the race, but ended up with a drive-through penalty right at the end of the race, which took the win away from him. Many feel it was a very, very hard penalty. Alongside me is the BMW junior driver, Ricky Collard, and the penalty was brought about because of sort of a safety car restart infraction, wasn't it? That you know, as a racing driver, you must feel really hard done by when you pick up a penalty like that. Absolutely.
First of all, good afternoon to everyone, and yeah, yesterday's race, what a shame for Danny. He did everything right, and like we say, when you catch Danny on a good day, you just can't catch him, but they couldn't quite catch him. He did cross the line first, but unfortunately it was due to the infringement at the start, which cost him dearly. So he'll learn from his mistakes. Absolutely. And he'll be out there again today. He certainly wasn't very happy about it, but then you would expect him not to be. Timo Glock, we just saw, he's going from P6 on the grid, and your buddy from BMW, Joel Eriksson, the young Swede, he's done another very good job in qualifying. He's the best of the BMW drivers. Absolutely, yes, a fantastic effort by him this morning, but BMW look like they're struggling a little bit this weekend. They knew before going into the weekend it would be quite difficult, but the Mercedes have Pascal Wehrlein, we're looking at now, he was extremely quick in free practice and in qualifying. So it'd be interesting to see what he can do after what was quite a difficult day yesterday as well. Paul di Resta, now, of course, he's leading the Drivers' Championship. Now, Paul di Resta and Gary Paffett, you know, off the track are mates. Of course they are. They race for the same brand. They're both arguing over the championship lead at the moment. And right in the middle of them is this man, Nico Müller for Audi. Now, as Dieter Gas indicated, he could do René Rast a real favour here by taking points away from Paffett and di Resta, couldn't he? Well, yeah, but at the same time, like we saw yesterday, if Nico has the speed, yes, it'd be interesting to see how he gets on up against this man here, Gary Paffett. So who knows? It'll be a battle into turn one for sure, and I think if the Audi can get in front, it will make life very difficult for Gary. Well, he did a very good job, of course, Gary, in qualifying. And bearing in mind, in FP session and just before the start of qualifying, they had a problem with the steering of the car. But the engineers worked very, very hard, and he was very, very high on mentioning the fact that it was down to the engineers that the car was so good in qualifying. So 55 minutes plus 1 lap is the race duration, and the race is not far from getting underway as we see this fantastic heli shot of the Red Bull Ring here at
Spielberg. This is one of the most scenic countries. Spielberg, in the Styrian region of Austria, has hosted DTM since 2001. The winners last year, Matthias Ekstrom and René Rast. Audi have been the victorious brand with 7 wins, as you can see, and some of the architecture and the scenery in Austria is remarkable. The mountains are utterly beautiful. And whilst it has a fantastic appeal during the course of the summer months, it must also be just as appealing in the winter as well. A truly beautiful country, and this track, which kind of wends its way through the hills here in the Styrian region of Austria. The track is 4.318 kilometers. 10 turns, 3 of them are left-handers, 7 of them are right-handers, and it's a real challenging circuit, Ricky, because it's quite undulating. That run up from turn 1, up through turn 2, that little kink to the left-hand, and then up to turn 3. It's blooming steep up there, says he, who's tried to run up it.
Good man. No, it can be really, really steep. And the other thing as well, these heli shots are fantastic, and you can see there's still, from the wet qualifying, well, the drying circuit that we had in qualifying and the wet practice, it still looks quite damp offline, and we've seen already today, you know, it can be quite slippy offline, so the first couple of laps are going to be difficult.
The sun is coming out now, thankfully, as we look at Paul de Resta, who is going from P3 on the grid. Paul de Resta in the driver's standings, as you can see, on 217 points. Merely 7 ahead of Gary Paffett. But now René Rast, following that victory yesterday, you know, he's on 174 points. This Drivers' Championship is not over by a long shot yet. And of course, from our point of view, well, actually, take your racing driver's hat off and put your racing fan hat on. It's great when a championship always goes all the way, rather, to the final race. You don't want it won a couple of events before the last one.
No, and that's what, look at how close it is already. Here's the live standings, and like Gerhard was saying earlier, it's going to go down to the last race. We know it is, and one thing's for sure, it'll be a great finale.
If you remember, when you and I were thrust together in this broadcast world at the start of the season at Hockenheim, we commentated on a heck of a race, didn't we? And I just think that the end of the season is going to be just as exciting as the start of the season for us.
Absolutely, and that's what everybody wants.
Of course it is. Yes, of course it is. A young race fan then of the future, maybe a young race driver, who knows? Big number of spectators here to enjoy DTM. It's always received very well here in Austria, and of course a number of Austrian drivers as well. We should say that are on the grid. Nico Müller, we were looking at there. And this is the Paul de Resta car. Just ahead of Paul de Resta then is Gary Paffett, the British driver that did it in qualifying and put it pole position, P1. Inside the car now, final stages of preparation for Gary Paffett. What goes through your mind, Ricky, when you are just minutes away from the start of the race? Are you just double, triple checking everything, thinking about your strategy, thinking about what you need to do? Please tell me.
Absolutely, that's great. You could see that onboard shot there from Gary's car. You can see where he's just pushing the brake. Yeah. So like you say, you're going through your checks now, just making sure, okay, is your brake bias exactly where you want it? Yeah, okay. Then you're sort of checking the track, asking your engineers for any other information that can sort of help you to get off the line, because as we've seen, the races are not won and lost off the start-finish line, but another heli shot there. You can see it looks more rubbered in on the inside where Nico Müller is going to be starting compared to where...
Yes, because that's disadvantageous, isn't it? Presumably for Gary Paffett, who's going on effectively the outside of the track going into turn number 1. Nico Müller has got the inside line, but of course Gary Paffett's car is 1 car length ahead, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly, and but it's normally an advantage to be starting there, but as we can see as well, the grandstands just shade that area of the track, whereas the inside is completely in the sunlight.
So that gets dried a bit quicker.
It's gonna be really, really good to see. As you can just see there from that shot, you can see the shade on that side compared to the sunshine, which is on the inside. So I don't know. It's going to be a good start.
Bruno, you'll never drive alone. Bruno Spengler, and there is Nico Müller then, who has got the somewhat drier side of the track. I mean, we are talking about degrees, aren't we, Ricky? Isn't there's, you know, it's only very, very slightly damp, isn't it, in places? That's all it is. But Nico Müller, who, of course, is going from P2 on the grid and got Pascal Wehrlein right behind him. There is René Rast then, going from P7 on the grid. He might be reliant on Nico Müller really being able to support here. And there is our pole sitter, Gary Paffett, the British driver. What success he has had this year. And we are merely 5 seconds away from the formation lap getting underway. Bang on time then. It's DTM. You would expect it to be. As Gary Paffett roars away. We are on the formation lap. All the cars getting away on their formation lap. Of course, the guest driver, Sébastien Ogier, right from the back of the grid. And you run uphill towards turn number 1. It's pretty steep going up there as well, isn't it?
Yeah, as you can see from that shot there, it's really steep going in, and then all of a sudden, as you come over the brow, and you're just trying to get the power down, it then starts to drop down a little bit before then climbing up again into turn 2. So, again, from driving the taxi car this morning, I can tell you the exit curb there is really vicious.
Oh, okay.
That sausage curb, and we're seeing a lot of guys running out to it, and if you run out to it and kiss it, it works really well, but if you actually go over it, it can... the forces of downforce plus the force of that going into the car, it can be...
so if you get it absolutely right, you can use it to your advantage. If you get it wrong, it's going to hurt you.
Yeah, and there's that fine margin, but
yes,
as you can see, I think Gary Paffett, Nico Muller and Paul de Rister and Pascal Wehrlein, all the guys at the front have obviously perfected it and made it work in their advantage.
Are you saying you didn't perfect it in the DTM race taxi this morning?
Maybe I ran wide a couple of times.
We love your honesty. In the sight of the Red Bull then here in... Austria, we are, of course, on the formation lap for this second race of the weekend here. Another one of the great features about the DTM is 2 races in every weekend, double the action, and great races we've had as well. Yesterday's race, well, it was so full of drama. It was untrue. We are hoping for much the same today, to be honest with you. Gary Paffett going from pole position. As you can see, P2 in the Drivers' Championship, a mere 7 points behind Paul de Rister, who's leading on 217. René Rast doing the catching up on 174 points, but he's some way back on the with regards to the grid for today. We're on board with him right now, and we know what pace he had yesterday. He was very, very quick indeed. Here is the man that's on pole position then, and Uli Fritz from Mercedes-Benz to the left-hand side of your picture there. Must be an anxious time for a racing driver, must be an anxious time for a team boss as well. Of course, all your hopes and aspirations in the Mercedes-Benz of Gary Paffett then, who is making his way now as Jens Marquardt to the very right-hand side of your picture, the BMW Motorsport director. And Gary then lighten up the rear tyres as he heads towards the grid.
3, 2, 1, go.
So Gary then, guided by his engineer, millimetrically perfectly into his grid box. You could hear that on completely live team radio as Dieter Gas from Audi looks on. So here in DTM, our team radio is completely live. 55 minutes plus 1 lap. The green flag is raised from the marshal at the rear, so the start sequence can get underway then. We will have 5 red lights come onto the gantry. When those lights extinguish, we will be away and racing. Oh, we're a long while on the red lights, but we go now, and a great start from Gary Paffett. A reasonable start from Nico Muller, but Gary Paffett has got a real flyer here. René Rast is on the outside of Timo Glock now. Joel Eriksson on the outside of Pascal Wehrlein as they all make their way through turn 1 with no damage done. It's now this long run up towards turn number 2 and turn number 3, almost 3 abreast. René Rast's progress is being halted by Joel Eriksson and the BMW, but look at this. René Rast could find himself P4 before turn number 3. So Rast now with excellent traction out of the Ramus turn number 3. There he is, he's up to P4 already. What a blistering start from René Rast. So Gary Paffett did everything exactly right, didn't he, Ricky?
Absolutely, but as you can see, René Rast is also at the box extremely quickly as the midfield is looking really tough as well. Augusta has a big drift on the exit there.
He did well to save that, didn't he? Because the rear end of the car was on the gravel. They go 3 abreast again. Look at this. Loic Duval in there with Marco Wittmann. But Gary Paffett leading from Nico Muller, Paul de Rister, and then it is René Rast. Edo Mortara makes his way past Timo Glock now. It's Mercedes beating BMW at the moment in that little battle. Timo Glock tries to fight back, but Edo Mortara has gone through. So Paffett leads from Muller, from Paul de Rister, and then René Rast, who has made himself up into P4 before the first lap has been completed. Brilliant charge from the Audi driver. Really anticipated where Joel Eriksson was going to go through that Remus turn and got it sorted absolutely perfectly as DRS is enabled now after the first completed lap. Mike Rockefeller all over the back of Jamie Green, trying to find a way past the all-orange car. And then diving up the inside there was Robin Freins. Robin Freins with a bold move from a way back. And Robin Freins getting past Philipp Eng. But now Daniel Juncadella was trying to buy into this as well. And so too is Lucas Auer. To the very right-hand side of your picture, the all-gold car of Lucas Auer, the local Austrian driver, up against Robin Freins now as he puts himself ahead of Daniel Juncadella. And now he's run out wide. But when you run out wide at the Remus turn, you can sometimes use it to your advantage. Again, we go 3 abreast, running from turn 3 down to turn 4. Philipp Eng on the inside. Robin Freins stuck in that sandwich, but Lucas Auer, the big beneficiary. Philipp Eng locks up. There was a touch between Robin Freins and Lucas Auer. And Jamie Green is right in the middle there, all right on the inside of Robin Freins. Squeezed just a little bit as Lucas Auer comes back, Ricky, and says, I'm going to have some more of this battle because I lost out that time around.
But it's just not stopping, is it? Everywhere we look at the moment, there's action, and there's 3 abreast and now 2 abreast as Marco Wittmann tries to get down the inside of Luca Duval.
Wow, so much going on. So, as you say, Bruno Spengler and Loic Duval side by side now. Marco Wittmann having gone through. Nico Muller is staying with Gary Paffett. The gap between the two of them last time around was merely 6/10. The rest of the order, well, they make it through and put another lap in the book. Nico Muller, the chase is on because it's down to 4/10 now between Gary Paffett and Nico Muller. So P1 to P2, just 4/10. Now, of course, Nico Muller's going to have his DRS flap open, and he is chasing Gary Paffett now as they head up towards turn number 3, the Remus turn. Paffett knows exactly where to place the car, but so too does Nico Muller. He will get DRS again out of here, won't he?
And he's got the run on the exit, good traction by the Audi on the exit of the Remus turn, and as they now go down the hill into turn 4, he's done the job.
Nico Muller takes up the lead of the race from Gary Paffett. All right, the race is not won in the first few laps, but Nico Muller, and in fairness, Ricky, he really impressed us yesterday with his race car up and his race pace. We knew the pace was there in the car.
This battle here, look at this.
He's now leading that pack.
Great onboard shots.
This is Gary Paffett then hard at work, now finds himself in P2. René Rast has got, of course, Paul de Resta ahead of him as Philipp Eng gets a black and white flag for forcing another car off the track. He's another one of the local drivers, the Austrian Philipp Eng, of course, who is currently running in P9 behind Danny Juncadella. And talking of which, we go on to his camera, which is mounted on the splitter of the car, and that gives us a phenomenal onboard shot. So Lucas Auer then, who tried so very hard to get in the mix of this lot, ended up being a big loser, really, despite his best efforts. And Robin Freins on Philipp Eng now. So Freins trying to pick up this P10 place, which Philipp Eng holds at the moment. Daniel Juncadella is P9. So Robin Freins now will try and get underneath the Philipp Eng car. And I think he's done it, Ricky.
I think he's timed that switch back to perfection.
Yes.
Couldn't fit anything in between that gap there, but he's now got the inside as they run up through turn 2 and into turn 3.
Yeah, let's see if he can do it here. The job, to be fair, as Philipp Eng locks up, but Jamie Green could be a big beneficiary as well, because he gets to the inside of Robin Freins. You lose a bit of momentum, don't you? And that's where Jamie Green potentially lost out. He tried hard, didn't he? Yeah,
absolutely, but when you have the steering lock on and you're trying to get back to traction,
yes,
compared to the car that's on the outside, they can get the steering lock off and get back to power a little bit earlier. And yeah, that's why I've just seen Philipp manage to get back in front, but that battle was far from over.
Big battle going on with Bruno Spengler and Loic Duval as well, just a little bit further back. We're on board with Mike Rockefeller, who's running in P14. There is the battle between Loic Duval and Bruno Spengler. For the moment, Loic Duval has got the better of him. Lucas Auer, I just get the impression he's letting this all settle down ahead of him before he makes his charge. I mean, he had to go on the opening lap, didn't he? And actually thought he was going to be successful, but ended up losing. So on board with Mike Rockefeller now as he's chasing down Lucas Auer ahead of him. So there, the Nico Muller confirmation that he's leading the race by some 4/10 over Gary Paffett. Of course, Paffett will have DRS available to him now in terms of trying to chase down Nico Muller. There's Danny Juncadella. Jamie Green just taking a look at the inside of Philipp Eng. So Philipp Eng, Jamie Green, Lucas Auer, Mike Rockefeller all through. And here comes Gary Paffett on Nico Muller again. As I said, he's got DRS available to him now, whereas Nico Muller does not. So Nico tries to make the Audi as wide as possible, puts it right in the middle of the track, and that prevents Gary going inside or outside almost, trying to decide which one he's going to use. But of course now he's got DRS again. And he can go to the outside of Nico Müller. That's not advantageous, but will he try and switch back here, Ricky?
Absolutely. He's now going to try and get the cutback, but he's going to have the outside again as they run into turn 6 and turn 7. So will he be able to get right around the outside? Not quite, but he's going to try and get the switchback. But if we stay on this heli shot, you can see it is still a little bit damp on the inside of the circuit there as well.
Interestingly, Augusto Farfus picking up a penalty for was that being correctly in line in his pit box, which really surprises me because your engineer guides you into the pit box, don't they? Absolutely,
but you're looking for every single little inch that you can get at the start, and unfortunately, I think maybe if they've just missed it by a little bit, that's going to be a massive shame.
Well, he's running down there in P18 at the moment, isn't he? So it's almost academic, I'm sorry to say, for Augusto Farfus. Well, Nico Müller, in my opinion, did a great job there, Ricky, because every time that Gary tried to put the car, and as you say, he was trying to use the switchback at various points, he was denied, wasn't he?
Okay, Lucas, we're one of the first cars. We are one of the first cars. It's 35 laps to go, 35. Remember, brake cooling and brake balance reset.
So, whilst we were watching Lucas Hour, here comes Gary Paffett once again. Lucas Hour, the first of the drivers to stop. Now, Paffett has got a better exit. And now with the DRS assist, he should be able to go past Nico Müller here. It's nip and tuck between the two of them, to be fair. And Nico Müller has got great pace. Is Paffett going to be able to get his nose in front? I don't think he is. So now, if Nico Müller carries just a little bit too much speed and loses out, but to be fair, wherever Gary is putting that car, Nico is defending absolutely perfectly. You have to give him credit for this defensive work.
He's driving the car absolutely fantastic. It's so easy in this position just to over-push your braking to try and over-defend and then make yourself vulnerable on the exit, and he's doing it absolutely perfect, and it's making life very difficult for Gary. And at the same time, you've got to remember, DeResta's coming up behind him, and you've got the 3 guys in the championship all directly behind each other on 2nd, 3rd and 4th. So the championship's going to be hot now.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This man is currently P3 in the Drivers' Championship. He can see the leader ahead of him, and that is Paul DeResta.
That was quite interesting. Did you see the onboard shot when you run on the exit curb, how aggressive it actually is? From the outside, it doesn't look aggressive, but from the inside there, you could see the camera really getting shaken around.
So no further action to René Rast for leaving the track and including an advantage.
No problem.
In comes Mike Rockefeller on the team radio then. Also coming in is Marco Wittmann. They've got to roll the dice and try any strategy call, haven't they? So here's Nico Müller again. Gary Paffett this time, not on his outside. So Gary will try and get a better exit here. René Rast is beginning to attack Paul DeResta now, isn't he, Ricky? I think you picked that up. He got a bit closer to him. But in fairness, Rast is under a bit of pressure from Joel Eriksson.
Absolutely. I think Joel Eriksson, you've got to remember, he's the rookie. He's not at the moment in the championship fight. And I'm sure that he can see a good chance to get some points back as Gary tries the outside again, but just unable to get the switch back at the moment. So they're both driving extremely well, and they're giving each other racing room. They're squeezing each other, they're getting close, but it's fair racing.
This must be really frustrating for Gary, mustn't it? Because, of course, whilst he's trying as hard as he is, he presumably, Ricky, by being more aggressive, by trying hard to get past Nico Müller, he'll be taking a little bit more out of the tyres than Nico is. Nico is a bit smoother, isn't he?
Absolutely. When you're in front, you have the clear air, so you can use the downforce of the car.
Okay.
When you're behind, obviously that downforce can start to disappear. Because there's no air getting to the car, and then you have to rely more on the actual tyre grip of the car.
Right.
And by doing so, it warms the tyres up, it warms the brakes up, and yeah, it can cost you in the long run. But as we see, he's now got the gap down to 4/10, so he will be within DRS range. And the other thing as well, he's using the DRS quite a lot now to try and get past. As you see now, tactically, he's not opening the DRS.
Well, I thought, yes, because he had used it just at the close of the lap, and so now he's up against Nico Müller through the Remus turn, then it's Paul DeResta, then it's René Rast, then it is Joel Eriksson, and then Pascal Wehrlein. They're all beginning to queue up now, aren't they? But none of them have got the pace advantage, and Nico Müller is doing a fantastic job. The 3 drivers that have stopped are Mike Rockefeller, Marco Wittmann, and Lucas Hour on board with René Rast now, as he chases down that Paul DeResta car. But Joel Eriksson is right on them, so there's 5 cars here. Very soon it's going to be 6 cars because Pascal Wehrlein's not far behind either. So on board with Rast then, this brilliant onboard shot as he takes the curbs. Now, I think René Rast is you know, he's a very sensible driver. We heard Dieter Gas say earlier on, he's got a great racing mind, and he'll be thinking that, you know, he's not going to throw everything out of the car at the moment in terms of his quest. I just wonder whether he's just biding his time, Ricky.
Absolutely. It's like you say, we've still got 43 minutes plus a lap. And
yes.
he will know that. And like I say, his racecraft is so good. He's been aggressive at the start to get to where he is.
Yeah,
he's done the hard work now. But now he's sort of got to play the strategy game and make sure that he's in the right place at the right time to get the moves done.
Of course, all the drivers have to take their mandatory pit stops. Those that have stopped, merely 3, Mike Rockenfeller, Lucas Out, and Marco Wittmann. So as they head up once again towards the turn number 3, the Ramus turn, there is Nico Muller, who's extended his margin by a 10th over Gary Paffett now. And there's Paul di Resta and René Rast running through that turn 3. You run downhill now towards the Roush turn, which is turn number 4, that right-hander. Then it's a real sweeper through turn 4, 5, before you get into the left-hander, which is turn number 6. So you continue to roll downhill almost. And Timo Glock on the back of Edo Mortara now, and here is Augusto Farfus and Sébastien Ogier having a fight over the P15 place. So Sébastien Ogier on the outside of Augusto Farfus, and there's a little love tap between the two of them here, but Sébastien Ogier looks like he's got the pace here, and Augusto Farfus trying to defend. As I say, this is what's going on for P15 in the race, but now with the inside, Sébastien Ogier should be able to put himself ahead of the BMW. Whoa! Augusto Farfus loses a little bit of the air as he bounced over those curbs, and that actually reinforces what you said earlier on. Those curbs can be brutal, Ricky.
Absolutely, but here we go. Here's a slow-mo of the start. As you want to take us through it, go on.
Yeah, so a brilliant getaway from Gary Paffett then as we take a look at the replay of this start, but it was an equally reasonable start from Nico Muller, but Timo Glock almost running into the back of Pascal Wehrlein, who was a bit sluggish away, and you can see how frustrated Glock was in the all-yellow car going into turn number 1. There was a big lock-up from Augusto Farfus. On board with René Rast then, and you see René Rast was able to take advantage of the fact that Glock was held almost by Pascal Wehrlein. Joel Eriksson getting very sideways. It was a good save from him. And then René Rast pursued Joel Eriksson all the way up until turn number 3. Here we can see them really centre picture here. So Glock then, as I say, his start was compromised by Pascal Wehrlein being slow ahead of him. And René Rast doing a brilliant job in terms of the start and putting himself up into that P4 position. So we stay on board with Gary Paffett then running in P2 behind Nico Muller. And look at the gap over the last 3 laps. Nico is just quietly going about this, Ricky, and increasing the margin between himself and Gary Paffett. It's
interesting because the Audis obviously they look really, really strong at the starts.
Yes.
And as we saw that great onboard shot of René Rast, you can see that he had a good launch. The car had a good amount of grip through the first couple of corners compared to maybe his rivals. And all of a sudden now it starts to settle down. It looks like they're struggling as we have another Mercedes into the pit.
Wehrlein coming in, isn't it? So Pascal Wehrlein has come in then. I just wonder whether Audi will look at this strategically and think, because Rast...
Okay guys, Pascal, we are ready for you. We will be fitting you a new set of tires and you will need to push on your front tires. You should have a good outlap.
7.1 seconds. We were listening to the team radio, and Pascal Wehrlein out, and as I was saying,
push on your
is going to have to push on the outlap on cold tyres. I was just before we went to that Pascal Wehrlein coming in for his mandatory pit stop as Gary really closes under braking on Nico Muller. I just wonder whether Audi will consider doing something strategically here and try and bring Rast in ahead of the 3 cars that are ahead of him, because all right, it's going to give him older tyres come the end of the race, but at the moment he's stuck there, isn't he? He's he's 6/10 behind Paul di Resta. They've got to try and do something with him. Do you not think?
I think so. The gap isn't really changing at the moment. Same with regards to Gary behind Nico, and we saw it yesterday and we've seen it time and time again. When the cars are on the hot tyres and the temperatures are up, compared to a car that's coming out on cold tyres trying to defend, it can be a lot easier to attack rather than defend. And I'm not sure. I think we will see an earlier pit stop from Rast. I think Muller will stay out for a little bit longer because he has the clear air.
Yes, absolutely.
But then the other question will be, what will they do with Gary?
Half-a-tenth quicker than the leaders. So now you need to push to undercut them. New tire, brake balance adjust.
So Robin Freins comes in then, and we heard there on team radio, brake balance, brake bias.
Go, 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 go.
brake bias adjust. So when you put those cold tyres on, Ricky, do you need to adjust the bias of your brakes?
Yeah, as we see the two BMWs and Mercedes going side by side, and maybe a little love kiss there between the pair of them, as Glock now has a DRS as they run down into turn 4.
Yes, they're heading towards turn number 4, aren't they, with Juncadella behind them. So Mortara, Glock and Juncadella. So this is close, and Timo Glock will try and put himself alongside Edo Mortara once again. It will give him the outside here, but the inside for the next one. But no, he's has to tuck in behind the Mercedes-Benz for the moment. This is the fight that's going on for P6 in the race. Joel Eriksson is up the road, and you see Glock is trying to attack Edo Mortara, but he's also got to be conscious of the fact he's got Danny Juncadella right behind him as well, so doesn't want to leave himself vulnerable to Danny Juncadella. So back to the brake bias story. So when you put the new tyres on, they're cold. That means you have to adjust the brake bias, Ricky, to compensate for that?
Yeah, so what you have is the cars are quite susceptible to locking up the front, especially when the cars come in, the brakes are hot, as we heard earlier. Cool the brakes, Pascal, cool the brakes. And they have a button on the steering wheel which allows almost like a little water pistol to squirt water onto the brakes. Yeah, okay. to cool them down. And when the brakes are hot, they can be really aggressive. And when you have cold, fresh tyres on, it's so easy to lock the front. But
we just saw Paul Di Resta with a small lock-up, actually, which is why there was a big inhale of breath there. So Glock now tries to get the inside on Edo Mortara, and I think he might have done it. He got a brilliant exit out of the turn, and Timo Glock now putting himself ahead of Edo Mortara as they head in towards turn number 4 now, the Roush turn, which is where they're going. Edo Mortara is going to try and hang it all the way around the outside. Timo Glock, Edo's got to stay right alongside, and Edo runs wide and loses out to Danny Juncadella as well. So Edo Mortara all of a sudden drops back from P6 to P8. So Timo Glock then, and Danny Juncadella was just in the right place at the right time and able to take advantage.
Absolutely, but at the same time, it's interesting to see now Danny's pace because, well, here's a replay. So Glock's got the inside, Danny's trying to go around the outside. Glock's taking a little bit of curb, maybe it's unsettled the car a little bit, but yeah, the big loser out of that, unfortunately, is...
Well, it was Edo Mortara, wasn't it, that he's under investigation, actually, is Timo Glock for not giving him racing room, potentially perhaps forcing another driver to leave the track. See, we're on board with René Rast now, and look at the gap to Paul Di Resta. You see, I just don't think anything is changing here. And that's why I wondered earlier on in our conversation, as in comes Danny Juncadella. There he is.
We go to a new set now. You'll end up between the Audis from Rockefeller and France. But they're on 1 lap older. France.
Oh, problem with the wheel gun. That was a slow stop. 10.2 seconds. That's hurt him. That has hurt him.
In front of them.
It's costly in DTM, where everything is so close.
Every 10th, yep. So on his way up the... and here we can see, this was the problem. Was it the gun? So only limited number of engineers, so the wheel goes on. The wheel wasn't set in correctly, Ricky, I think. So standing by there with the gun, but until the wheel is actually placed perfectly, you can't go to it with the gun. So that's what cost possibly 3 seconds there. We've seen times in the 7s for Mercedes, haven't we? And that was a 10.2, wasn't it?
Absolutely, and that's going to be quite costly, but at the same time, he's going to have the hotter tyres when he comes out, and he's going to be in fresh air now. So there's the on your screens the warning for Timo.
Yeah, to be fair, he did run Edo out, didn't he? You know, Edo was almost on the gravel, wasn't he? So in comes Joel Eriksson now. This is quite strategically important because Joel Eriksson, of course, was on the back of the Fighting Four at the front. So we need a good stop here from Joel Eriksson's team. We run the clock on it, and 7 seconds exactly.
We're fighting Wehrlein. We're fighting Wehrlein. New cold tires. It's 4th position, Joel. Let's keep it.
There you go. Engineer has been told. Now, let's go back to this battle, which was raging earlier on between Augusto Farfus and Sébastien Ogier. Sébastien Ogier on the outside of the Remus turn here. Augusto Farfus on the inside. Sébastien bounces his car over the curbs, but again, DRS is open on the Sébastien Ogier car, which should mean that Augusto Farfus is a sitting duck. So, sure enough, he goes through to take up what is P12 position at the moment. So, Sébastien Ogier Now, guest driver in the DTM, really concentrating, of course. The wiper's going as well. I'll tell you what, is there...
I think he's trying to turn it off. We could see him adjusting the steering wheel. There's normally a dial for the wipers to determine the speed of it, but unless Sebastian's
I just wondered
doing a different circuit.
I just wondered whether that windscreen, it seemed to be coated with some...
oil.
Yeah, it looked misty, didn't it?
Well, it's off now.
But there...
Oh, yeah, it's really difficult,
I mean,
actually.
the visibility for him is really compromised, isn't it? Oh, as he holds on to that, that was a brilliant bit of sideways driving. Sébastien Ogier then holding on to that car.
Ogier in his natural environment now,
very much so.
The wiper's back on again.
I just think that screen, to me, looks really, really misty. Right. Here comes Gary Paffett and Paul di Resta. Now, the gap between Muller and Paffett has increased now to 1.5. So all of a sudden, Paul di Resta is right onto the back of Gary Paffett here. There's 7/10 between the two of them. Now, factor into this, car number 2 is P2 in the Drivers' Championship. Car number 3 is P1 in the Drivers' Championship. And Gary Paffett at the moment is ahead of Paul di Resta. Oh, and Augusto Farfus is out. Now, where that car is situated, if the car is still running and they're able to recover the car from there without the need for the safety car to be deployed, I mean, it's on an access part of the track, isn't it? Because in comes René Rast. In comes René Rast.
This could be a perfectly timed stop if they do receive a safety car, but again, the Audi guys have got to be spot on as he comes into the box, perfectly on the markers.
Audi Sport Team Rosberg go to work on the René Rast car then. I said that I figured that they would bring him in.
Okay, it's a straight
Very
fight
good stop.
you four guys. You have 1 left lower DS compared to Paffett and 2 compared to di Resta.
So Rast then makes his way out of the pit lane now. Very, very much uphill. Look how narrow that pit lane is between those Armco barriers. René Rast now gives it a footful. Of course, he's going to be on cold tyres now. Oh, almost hugs the Armco on the way out, doesn't he? Don't cross the right white line, René. And Pascal Wehrlein's going to go through. Mike Rockefeller will probably go through as well. So there is René Rast then vigorously weaving from side to side to try and get the temperature into the tyres as he heads up towards the Ramus turn now. So it'll be interesting to see when they decide to pit Nico Muller and also when they decide to pit Gary Paffett and Paul di Resta. So there is Joel Eriksson. So he has Pascal Wehrlein for company. Ahead of them both is Sébastien Ogier. Looks like they're going to try and get rid of the Augusto Farfus car without the need for a safety car, but there is a waved yellow. Is in now, Ricky, comes Paul di Resta.
Push on the outlap, Paul, push on the outlap.
Also in, Timo Glock. Paul being told to push on the outlap. Well, there's only so much pushing you can do, isn't there, with regards to those, you know, you can only drive as fast as the grip will allow you to drive, I guess.
You can see as well, these are brand spanking new tyres that are going on there, and they are just like driving on ice for the first couple laps.
+1, Rast +2, push, push.
So Gary's got 1 lap more than Paul di Resta. Rast has got 2 laps more than Paul di Resta with regards to DRS usage. I think that's what the engineer was saying. Here comes René Rast now. Paul di Resta, of course, on his way out of the pit lane. He's going to be on cold tyres here. Rast is just going to be able to walk past him, isn't he?
Yeah, I think he's going to get him. I think it's going to be a sitting duck as he gets a fantastic exit out of the last corner, and now he's in the slipstream. Paul's going to go to the inside. I think Rast will have to go the long way around.
Well, he's going to make it as difficult as possible, but actually on those cold tyres, René Rast should be able just to walk past Paul di Resta as he locks the car up as well, and Rast does go through.
Here we go. It's going to be interesting now to see what the strategy is with regards to Paul as well, because effectively that's for P2 on the grid, isn't it?
Of course. But bear in mind, Paul di Resta is going to have slightly younger tyres than René Rast come the end of the race. So there's all sorts of permutations. As in now comes the race leader and P2, Nico Muller and Gary Paffett.
Pit lane, Paffett is also pitting. We have 22 laps to go. You have 10 laps of DRS left. Paffett 8, di Resta 5, Rast 7.
So listening to the team radio then, they can afford not to get this wrong. Both pit stops have got to be perfect. Nico Muller, 7.6. Gary Paffett, 9 seconds. just when he needs every single tenth, Ricky. It wasn't there, was it?
Not quite, and just as we can see on our screens here, he's going to be coming up the final corner now. Rast, look in the top right-hand corner of your screen, and here he comes down the start-finish line.
This could be the perfect strategic call from Audi, couldn't it?
This could be,
because he's not going to be defended too hard by Nico Müller. So he gets past Gary Paffett now. Bear in mind, Paffett is on those cold tyres. Rast's tyres are more warm. And who has Rast got ahead of him now? Nico Müller.
His best mate. But it's going to be interesting as well, because we've also got a fight for P1 and P2 in the championship now between Gary and Paul, as Paul is still weaving to generate some kind of front tyre temperature.
Well, as I said, all the permutations can play out, and the drama is increased still further. Meantime, Mike Rockefeller, Timo Glock and Danny Juncadella having their own battle going on here. So, Di Resta right on the back of Paffett now. So, what can Paffett do to defend here?
And the other thing we've got to remember, all the time that these two are fighting, it's allowing René to get further and further and further away.
Of course, as two drivers battle, that does mean that they slow.
And the other person that
potentially Joel Eriksson might be in this.
He also wants a slice of the action. Potential podium here if, well, potentially depending on how the two guys in front get on.
So
take your seats.
Yes.
Here we go. This is far from over. We've still got 27 minutes plus 1 lap.
So Paffett at the moment, I have to say, to my mind, it doesn't look, and I don't know whether you agree with this, Ricky, it doesn't look like Paul has pushed too hard.
It doesn't, but then at the same time, they will be being told by their team, the more you fight, the more you're going to allow the bigger picture, which is the championship, to get away. And Rast is going to be wanting them to battle, but then at the same time, if they want to beat Rast in the championship and eliminate him, they've got to work together.
Juncadella, of course, he's not in the championship mix, he's in the race, and he wants to get as far up the order as he can. He couldn't care less about Di Resta and Paffett ahead of him, and he's going to be a real factor in this, in my opinion, because, you know, Joel Eriksson, he's just going to want to come past. No further action for Timo Glock, forcing another car to leave the track. That's been decided by the race stewards. So let's keep our eyes on this then, as Gary Paffett is leading Paul Di Resta from Joel Eriksson at the moment. I think Joel Eriksson, if he can split these two Mercedes-Benz, he could be real problems for them, you know. So there's Nico Müller, there is René Rast. So effectively that's P1 and P2 in the race when you adjust for all the pit stops. And then, of course, P3 now is Gary Paffett, as Edo Mortara makes his way out of the pit lane now. 7.4 second stop for Edo Mortara. Look how Müller and Rast have just got up the road from the two Mercedes-Benz, as Paul Di Resta just looks at the inside of Gary Paffett then. So, is Paul going to have a go going into turn number 3? The Ramus turn now. His DRS window is open. The flap at the back rear wing. So, Paul Di Resta now does mean business on Gary Paffett. He's got the inside line. Paffett goes to the outside. And Paul Di Resta then goes through and takes up that place from Gary Paffett. Paffett, of course, is not going to have DRS available to him until the next lap. So, Paffett then tracking the Paul Di Resta car. You can see that rear wing. It opens up, doesn't it? And Joel Eriksson just quietly biding his time, watching the two of them ahead. So, on board with Gary Paffett then. Down through the gearbox then. Onto the brakes. Takes the curbs. And then back on the throttle once again. To say, Paul Di Resta executed that absolutely perfectly going into turn number 3. And this didn't help, did it?
No, this was what the problem was.
It stuck. The wheel was stuck, wasn't it? And then he had to smack the gun as well.
That allows it for the undo and for the clockwise motion and the anti-clockwise motion, so it must have then flicked into a clockwise motion, but fantastic move.
There was the replay of Paul Di Resta getting past Gary Paffett. Now that he has got past Gary Paffett, he's beginning to open up the gap. But as I say, in this lap, Gary should have DRS available to him if he stayed within a second of Paul Di Resta. I don't think there's a second between the two of them. Might be.
The other thing that's quite interesting as we look on our screens now at the DRS usage, Paul has only got 3 left. And he's still got 23 minutes of racing plus 1 lap, so...
he's going to be vulnerable then, isn't he? They're both potentially going to be vulnerable. What's Ericsson got? He's only got 4, hasn't he? Well, Nico Müller then, leading the race. Actually, the race is being led by Jamie Green at the moment, but that is because neither Jamie Green nor Philipp Eng have stopped yet. On board with Philipp Eng then, as he chooses to come in now. That was a late decision, wasn't it, to take the pit lane?
Yeah, look at how much he's hustling as well, the car, to get it through, as he swapped over to the split cam as he desperately tries to get onto the pit lane speed limiter. But yeah, that was, they're looking for every single 10th of a second, but pit stops can be won and lost in the, races can be won and lost in the pit stop, so it's vital that the driver stops perfectly in the box as we stay on the splitter cam now.
Cool.
Perfectly on the lines. Mechanics go to work. Fronts, then rears. 7.2.
4 for brake cooling. 1, 4.
Copy, copy.
So we hear that brake cooling quite a lot, don't we?
Exactly, because we have these big braking zones here. Turn 1, a big braking zone. Turn 3, a big braking zone. And turn 4, also a big braking zone. So it is really, really hard on the brakes around this circuit. But be interested now to see whereabouts Philipp will come out relative to the other guys. Can't quite see it in our picture, but...
No, we're not quite high enough, are we? So, Müller, Rast, then. So there he is, René Rast, then. Earlier on, I wondered whether Audi would choose to pit René Rast earlier and try and get the undercut on Paul di Resta and Gary Paffett. And that's precisely what they've done. So René Rast then in a relatively comfortable position with regards to continuing his haul of points. However, there is, as Ricky Collard alongside me has pointed out, there's still 21.5 minutes plus 1 lap of racing to come before the checkered flag falls on this race 2 here at the Red Bull Ring this weekend. We're on board with René Rast now. Head up towards turn number 1. Presumably, as you run uphill towards turn number 1, Ricky, you can afford to brake just a little bit later because the actual uphill motion is slowing the car anyway.
Yeah, definitely. And what's quite interesting is we keep seeing Rast always pushing that with his right hand, pushing the brake cooling. So when he comes out the corner, first thing he does, cool the brakes. So then they can then, the little water pistols can go to work and try and cool them carbon brakes as he then stamps on them and demands a lot from them then into these hard braking zones of turn 1, turn 3.
He's a really complete, rounded driver, isn't he? He's, you know, he thinks about everything, Ricky, and you know, we saw that yesterday, didn't we? You know, he quietly just goes about everything, and he focuses. As in comes Sébastien Ogier. I'd love to get an onboard of Sébastien Ogier.
Your pace was very good.
Just to see if he does have a problem with that windscreen.
We did have one on board, and he was giving us a bit of WRC action, fully sideways across the across the ocean side.
Look.
Ah, there you go. They are pulling off a tear-off. Maybe this might have had something to do.
Watch the white line on the exit. We expect you will be close with Müller and Rast.
Something to do with Farfus's retirement. Maybe there was oil leaking from the car, and as we saw Ogier battling with Farfus,
yes,
that maybe could have been one of the reasons why Farfus had the retirement and why we're seeing loads of oil on Sebastian's windscreen. But am I right in saying that was a very good stop?
Do you know what? I was listening to what you were saying. I wasn't looking at the clock.
He's just come out in front of...
Yeah, well, he's come out in front of effectively the race leaders, hasn't he? They're not the race leaders because Jamie Green is leading the race, but actually Jamie Green hasn't stopped yet. So Sébastien Ogier has come out ahead of Nico Müller and René Rast. Still to stop, it's Jamie Green, and here we can see Gary Paffett now chasing Paul di Resta, and Gary Paffett on the inside of Paul di Resta. We can almost expect this cat and mouse battle to go on for the rest of the race, because they are fighting in the Drivers' Championship, let alone in this race as well. Paul di Resta currently heading Gary Paffett in the Drivers' Championship, but as you can see on track, Gary Paffett now puts himself back ahead of the Paul di Resta car. Just behind them is Joel Eriksson. So there is Nico Müller, there is René Rast. And I appreciate what you're saying with regards to Sébastien Ogier, but bear in mind that he's 2 down.
Yeah, I've just spotted that, yeah. I was about to say, I thought, God, that was a quick stop. He didn't even do the pit stop.
Stop was in tenths of seconds rather than seconds, yeah, no. So, there's Paffett then, and Paul de Resta. Jamie Green, the leader of the race. And here comes Nico Müller and René Rast then with 18.25 minutes plus 1 lap of the race remaining. And Sébastien Ogier, the guest driver this weekend for DTM here at the Red Bull Ring in the Mercedes-Benz car with a livery celebrating the years of Mercedes participation in the DTM series, which all too sadly comes to an end at the end of this particular season, which is why the championship is so fraught. Because of course they would love to go out on a high with either Gary or Paul taking the championship honours. So Sébastien Ogier, we assume, unlike yesterday, where he wasn't, in my opinion, terribly helpful to Gary Paffett, he's not going to hold them up now. You can see, short of indicating left and pulling into a lay-by, he really didn't hold them up this time around.
No, and he's also helped Joel out as well by getting out of the way. So it's good to see that he's not interfering with the battles that are going on.
He, of course, is not playing part of the championship as such, and is merely a guest driver this weekend. I say merely. He's made a very good account of himself, that's for sure.
One thing as well that's quite interesting to see is the exit curb on turn 9, which then runs into turn 10.
Yes.
You can get a really long brake pedal into turn 10 because of what you have this pad knockoff.
Pardon?
A pad knockoff. So what it is where the car runs over the curbs.
Yes.
It vibrates the pads so much that it pushes it out, like what we were seeing with the onboard shot, where it's vibrated so much.
Okay.
And then when you then go to hit the brakes,
yes,
instead of the pedal being where you hope it is,
it's actually further down.
Yeah, it's 2 inches further down, which allows you to brake a couple of meters later.
The pad has actually come away from the inside the caliper, come away from the disc a little bit further than ordinarily it would do.
Yeah, and that's it. So then it just requires a bit more travel to get it back. And sometimes that's why you see when they're going down the straights, after they run wide a little bit, you'll just see them just dab the brake.
Just to bring it back to where it should be. And that's called pad knockoff.
Pad knockoff. There we go. There's my lesson for today.
Thanks, mate. There's a reason we have you here, and that's one of them. So we're on board with René Rast, who is closing the margin to Nico Müller. It's 8 tenths now between the two of them. So what have we got? 16 minutes plus 1 lap of the race remaining. Jamie Green has still not been into the pit lane yet, so he continues to lead the race. But strategically, this is going to work potentially perfectly for Audi, isn't it? Potentially. We've still got a lot of race to do.
I don't want to chuck a commentator's curse on there, but no, they're driving in formation and they're doing a fantastic job. And
I tell you what, with the speed that René Rast approached Nico Müller there, it was like he'd chucked an anchor out of the car going up to turn number 1.
And this is where we could see the move now, David. Look, he's got the DRS wing open as he goes to the inside. And
yeah, through he goes. So René Rast then effectively picks up the lead of the race from Nico Müller. And there you can see inside the Audi Sport Team Rosberg garages. Oh, René is certainly looking at the rearview mirror, isn't he? And
he's having a good look then, wasn't he?
Oh, this looks like it's going to be a race retirement for Lucas Auer. He's had a rotten weekend, it has to be said.
Then go to the weighbridge, please. Go to the weighbridge.
Lucas Auer is out of the race. What a shame for the local driver, Lucas Auer, then. He was a real championship contender last year, of course, you will recall. He is out of the race. So Rast leading Nico Müller. Well, actually, that's not strictly true. If you look at the graphics on the left-hand side of your screen, you'll see that Jamie Green is the leader of the race. This in replay, then, just did it perfectly, didn't he? With the DRS assist on the inside, he was never going to be defended too hard by Nico Müller, was he, Ricky? No,
but at the same time, this is just teamwork, and they're working so well. And when you've got two drivers that, you know, work really well, it just benefits the team so much. And Audi will be hoping to pick up a lot of points as the whole team there. That's what it's about. It's about the team.
And we've seen it with every manufacturer, haven't we? What I found quite refreshing yesterday was, you know, there was no trying to hide the fact, was there? You know, René said at the end of the day, this race actually is Mike's and Nico's. It's not mine. However, for the greater good,
it's I don't know. It's great to see it, but at the same time, he could be on his way for a 4 out of 4, and this is quite worrying. I would be quite worried if I was.
Well, look how
Gary
far up the road they are from the Mercedes cars. You know, are they waiting for Jamie Green at last? You know, actually, Jamie can, or they can decide when to bring Jamie in, and here he is then, the British driver who drives the number 53 car. He is leading the race at the moment, and of course, what he's tried to do, presumably, Ricky, with the clear track ahead of him, he's tried to do every lap like a quali lap, hasn't he? And just get up the road, get up the road, get up the road, before coming in to give himself as much advantage as he can possibly have when it comes to coming out on those cold
Jamie,
tyres.
pit lane.
So Jamie's in the pit lane now. First, almost the first garage there, as you can see. They go to work on the car.
Spot on into the marks. Very good stop, 6.5. This will be interesting as well to see where he was relative and where he comes out now.
We have to find all the cars around.
Fight all of the cars around.
He'll be doing that, won't he? Now, we saw just a few moments ago regrettable retirement for the number 22 car of Lucas Auer. He's with Verena now.
But Lucas, can you talk us through it? Why did the race end for you?
No, we had already in qualifying a problem, and now a different problem. So a technical issue, and I had to retire. I couldn't drive anymore.
Very unfortunate, especially here since it's your home race.
Yeah, sure. But today, I mean, we made a lot of mistakes this weekend, we have to say. It's a shame for the people who are here. But anyway, that's motorsport.
Thank you very much, Lucas. Thank you for the honest words, and back to you.
Thank you. Ricky, in motorsport, you have to take the highs and the lows.
Absolutely, and unfortunately today it's been a low, but it's the lows that make the highs so special, and without the highs and lows you wouldn't have motorsport, and we wouldn't have the great show that we've got. One person that can give you a high and a low. If we look at René Rast, he was upside down a couple of months ago, and now all of a sudden he's gone cartwheeling through the air, and he's now at the front of the at the front of the pack, and he's in with a hunt of this championship fight, and he's looking to make it 4 out of 4.
But this is, forgive me, this is part of what makes DTM so special. As you say, he was cartwheeling through the air at the Lausitz-Ring, wasn't he? And now, you know, he's chasing the top two in the Drivers' Championship. He's leading this race. This could be, you know, bear in mind, coming off the back of what was a supreme record-breaking weekend for him at the Nürburgring, you know, to take 2 out of 2 here, I have to say, you know, it's not what we expected. In the live championship, you can see 229, 225, 199 for René Rast. If it stays this way at the moment, that is going to make for, as Jacko would say, a thriller when it comes to Hockenheim. Wow.
Absolutely, wow. That would be epic. And the other thing as well, what we can't forget about here is the guys that are 1 and 2 in the championship, they are currently 3rd and 4th. And as racing drivers, you love a taste of you love the taste of champagne.
Yes, sure.
And there's going to be a hell of a battle there. René is kind of, it's great that he's got Nico behind him because he kind of knows that's his mate, and he's going to help him out in the championship, so he can almost just relax a little bit. Whereas Gary and
I bet he ain't relaxing.
Well,
I know what you're saying, but I bet he isn't.
He's not on a Sunday drive, that's for sure.
No.
On the way to the shops, but you got to remember Gary and Paul here. They are both fighting hard in the championship, but that gap is just eking out a little bit, as we can just sort of see out of our commentary booth. But it'll be far from over, I think, because as we saw yesterday, the last 10 minutes can be
pretty frantic, can't they?
Pretty frantic.
Well, we're on board with René Rast then, who is leading the race, and I think the strategy call was absolutely perfect from Audi. They brought Rast in, and here we can see super slow-mo of René Rast then as he turns in. And boy, you use a lot of steering angle there at the Remus turn, don't you, to just get the car rotated and into the right place. And of course, all the time you're losing momentum because it's still uphill, isn't it?
Absolutely, and that's the thing, you can brake but then carry a bit more speed in, because the inertia slows you down anyways as you start to hit that banking. But it's weird because you come out of turn 1 and you think that they look similar, sort of on approach.
Yeah.
And you think that you could do the same into turn 2 or turn 3.
There's a very disappointed Lucas Auer. it's a real devil, isn't it, when it's your home race and you really want to perform for your home fans. And I mean, such a nice guy, such a nice and such a good racing driver. But this year has just not been Lucas's year.
Unfortunately not, but, you know, he's always there and there and thereabouts. And it's such a shame when you've got family, friends,
of course,
that come and support you. But he's got fans all over the country and all over the world. And just because it hasn't gone right today, there's no means to say that it won't go right. And am I right in saying he was on pole position at the start of the season at Hockenheim?
Oh, Lucas has, you know, he's had some good results this year. He hasn't had a win, to be fair, but he's had podiums. But I can remember talking to him at the Nürburgring last year when he'd sort of started the season really well, then it had gone away from him, then middle of the season it all came back again. He was back in the game, you know, and he's just such a good guy to talk to. And well, there we are. It hasn't gone his way this weekend, that's for sure. Gary Paffett then is in that P3 position at the moment, and as Ricky has alluded to, I think towards the end of the race, despite the fact that Gary has really eked open the gap, hasn't he? 1.6 seconds between himself and Paul di Resta. Di Resta's also going to want to be on the podium.
Absolutely, and he knows that every single time that Gary's finishing ahead of him, that's valuable championship points.
Yeah.
And he will also know that René is out in front, and it's quite funny actually as a racing driver. You can sometimes look at your rivals' pit boards. Unfortunately, I don't think we've got many pit boards here this weekend. The majority of it is done over radio. But yeah, it's quite a funny trick that you can sometimes do, is you can look at your rival's pit board and work out whereabouts they are in relation to yourself.
Oh, really? Okay.
Or look at the screens.
Yeah, of course. I have heard a number of drivers say that they do look at the screens as they're, you know, the big screens as they're on their way round the track. Amazes me you have time to even think, Ricky, truthfully, but René Rast leading the race from Nico Müller, from Gary Paffett, then it's Paul di Resta, Joel Eriksson, Pascal Wehrlein, Timo Glock, Danny Juncadella. Mike Rockenfeller, who's running in P9, is the first driver to lose all DRS. He's used them all. And Edo Mortara is behind him, occupying the final points-paying place at the moment. Philipp Eng and Jamie Green, who, of course, was the last to pit and therefore has come out in P12. Timo Glock under threat now from Danny Juncadella. This for P7 in the race. And Timo Glock makes the BMW wide through the Remus turn and denies Danny Juncadella. That was a good defensive move there. Timo almost threw the car into that turn, and in so doing has prevented Danny Juncadella from coming past. And Timo is certainly is under pressure now as Danny carries too much speed. And Danny, that's a mistake. That is a real mistake from Danny Juncadella. He's got enough momentum to get it onto the tarmac on the outside and then chooses not to use the tarmac and just, that's it, drag all that gravel out on the track. That'll help. But that was just an outbreak error, wasn't it?
I thought it was a big lunge from the fantastic heady shot, but
I mean, he's just come from so far back. He's never going to be able to scrub the speed off, is he?
It looks like there was almost a rear lock there, because we didn't see any front locking until the final phase, but that's a massive shame. Because he was running so high up.
You can almost think of Timo saying, yeah, come on then, have a go. Ta-da, chap.
That was the other thing as well. It was good that there was no contact, because it's very easy for Timo then to try and break it a little bit later.
Yeah, but look, there's all that gravel being coated all over the track now, which of course is, when you're coming round to that turn, the last thing you want, isn't it?
I think René's going to... gonna have a little rockery on his car when he comes around here.
It's the next turn where René Rast and Nico Müller are heading now. Hopefully some of it will have been swept away by some of the other cars. But René Rast and Nico Müller heading into that turn now where Danny Juncadella went off, and it's on the midway through this turn where you would find that gravel. Well, thankfully both René and Nico Müller go through there with no problems at all. So Rast to Müller is 6/10, and then it's a full 6 seconds back to Gary Paffett in P3. Paffett and di Resta 1.1, and then it's Joel Eriksson, Pascal Wehrlein, Timo Glock, and Mike Rockenfeller. So there is Paffett then. Look at the marbles off the tyres on the, sort of just off the racing line. That's how much, we talk about tyre degradation quite a lot. And in terms of degradation, basically what happens, these rubber marbles come off the tyres, don't they, as they're wearing?
Yeah. And that's what can make it so difficult when you get pushed off line. You get pushed off line for sort of 1 or 2 corners.
Yes.
It's really difficult then, because it takes maybe half a lap or a lap sometimes to actually get that excess rubber to come off the tyre and clean up again. So that's why sometimes when you see someone get overtaken, it's very easy to fall into sort of snowball effect as we see some great shots.
This
here.
is a beautiful shot, isn't it? There's some. If there was a creative prize given for camera work, that's a lovely one, isn't it? A shot of Gary Paffett and Paul di Resta. All of a sudden, di Resta has got a bit closer to Gary Paffett, hasn't he?
I was about to say that. I think he's timing it well, isn't he? He's only got 3 minutes and 40 seconds plus one lap to make an effort.
Again, Ricky alongside me, where has the time gone? All of a sudden, we're into 3.5 minutes plus one lap of the race left. That's all that's left.
Absolutely. You can see it's gone down from nearly 1.6 down to 1.2, so I don't know. Who's your money on? It's going to be a fight.
I think you're... I wouldn't want to be in this man's position in the middle of that picture there. Uli Fritz, who, of course, you know, both are his drivers. Both are in the championship chase. That's one man that's looking very happy, isn't it? Arno Zenzen, the head of Audi Sport Team Rosberg, because look who's leading this race.
A little smirk there, wasn't there?
Yes, there was. I think there was.
From one nervous camp to one happy camp.
I always think, when you look at René there, it's almost like his crash helmet doesn't fit properly. You know, he's kind of... His eyes always seem not quite, you know, it's almost like the crash helmet should sit a little bit lower on his head. I mean...
It is a bit strange. But the other thing as well is you sit so low in these cars.
Yes, of course.
You've got to remember, these cars are almost like a Formula 1 car, almost with a body shell around them. So you sit in a very laid-back position with your legs actually being about the same sort of height as your chest. So you're almost laid down, and it's just your neck and your upper shoulders that are lifted up, just so you can see enough over the car, because the idea is to get as much of the centre of gravity,
it's all about weight distribution, I guess,
as low as possible. And there you go. From that shot there, you can kind of see what I'm talking about. And there was that little dab of the brake just before he then hits the brake.
Okay, and that's pad
knockoff.
Knockoff.
There you go. And you'd rather do it at high speed rather than low speed.
Right.
So you do it sometimes just before you come into the braking zone of the next corner, just a little tap, push the pads back into the discs, and you know then that you won't get a...
Of course, Augusto Farfus we lost much earlier in the race, didn't we? And he's finally made his way down the pit lane. I think he's walked from where he came off, hasn't he? He didn't get a ride on a scooter, did he?
Oh, bless him. His hair still looks fantastic, though.
He's a great guy. He's a super racing driver, Augusto Farfus. So another lap goes in the book then for René Rast, being chased by Nico Müller. Well, I say chase, there's 5/10 between the two of them. And Rast leading Nico Müller, then it is Gary Paffett and Paul di Resta, and that's the interesting gap between di Resta and Paffett, 1.1 seconds. So Rast then heads up towards the Ramus turn then, turn number 3, and unbelievably almost the race has reached its conclusion. Strategically, Audi Sport Team Rosberg have done a very, very good job here, because René Rast is leading Nico Müller. Nico Müller, of course, driving for the Audi Sport Team Abt Sports line, but Audi Sport Team Rosberg that are responsible for running the René Rast car. See their driver of car number 33 in the lead of the race. Bear in mind that if it stays this way, and we do still have 40 seconds plus one lap, this will be his 4th win in a row in DTM, which is extraordinary.
He's on a mission, isn't he? And as you can see, the guys, and there's that onboard shot, and you can just see how focused he is. And it's great then when we then switch to this front-facing camera.
Yes.
It's just down one gear, throws it in, back to power, and then look at this exit curve. And the pedal is a little bit longer, and then down one gear again, and then back to power, and it really drops there. And that's where we sometimes see the cars sparking.
Right.
As the front splitter would just touch the ground, but.
Well, as we cross the line, we've got 5 seconds left, so we're going to have the remainder of this lap plus one more, I would suggest.
And the gap, just to let you know, to di Resta has just gone up to 1.3 seconds. So Gary has found a little bit of time there on the last lap, but yeah, the timer is now on 0.
So yeah, the remainder of this lap plus one more, I think, because I think they crossed the timing line with enough time to get 2 more laps in. Well, the remainder of this lap plus one more. So René Rast leading from Nico Müller, then it's Gary Paffett and Paul di Resta. Then it's Joel Eriksson and Pascal Wehrlein, Timo Glock, Mike Rockefeller, Edo Mortara, and rounding out the points-paying positions, it's going to be Philipp at the moment, who is running in that P10 place, currently ahead of Danny Unkadea, Jamie Green, Robin Freins, Marco Wittmann, who's had a torrid time of it today, Bruno Spengler, and Loic Duval. So there he is. This is what the championship prediction is going to be like. Going into 2 races at Hockenheim, 229 points for Paul di Resta, 225 for Gary Paffett, and 199 for René Rast. If you were writing a story for the final chapter, it couldn't be much closer than this, could it?
I'd say if you were reading a book and this was the final chapter, you wouldn't be going to bed, you'd just be reading it. And I'm sure there'll be a huge crowd at Hockenheim, and it can literally go either way at the moment. And it's great to see how this battle is planning out. And it'll be interesting to see actually what the facts are on how much René is catching the other guys in relation to how many races are left. And there's the confirmation of the last lap.
So we will have up for grabs after this race a maximum of 56 points up for grabs. Nico Muller's going to push him on the line, isn't he?
He was having a little look there, wasn't he? And he gets the car nicely in on the apex, and he's thinking, "Come on, mate, let me have one quick go." As he got the DRS wing open, as they run down into.
He has. So Nico Muller then.
He's playing with him, isn't he?
Well, it almost looks that way, doesn't it? I'm sure it's not, but there is Arno Zenzen then on the pit wall.
The smirk has gone there.
Yes.
He's very seriously looking now. Come on, boy, just get it home for us.
Audi Sport Team Rosberg team boss. So René Rast with just a few turns to do then to add his fourth victory in a row. And Edo Mortara and Philipp Eng having a bit of a fight on here. This is Philipp Eng trying to get that P9 place away from Edo Mortara. As René Rast has one more turn to do. 4 wins in a row, 2 at Nürburgring, 2 at the Red Bull Ring. René Rast wins race 2 ahead of Nico Muller. Gary Paffett will be on the podium for P3. Paul di Resta will take P4. A very good drive from Joel Eriksson for the BMW will take P5 ahead of Pascal Wehrlein and Timo Glock. Then it will be Mike Rockenfeller.
Well done, René. Cool down the car, spray the brakes, cool down. Yeah.
Who's it going to be? It's Eng ahead of Mortara. So Philipp Eng did get him. What a great drive from René Rast. And what a great strategy call from these people. Whilst you have to go out there and drive the car, Ricky, you're reliant on the support that you're getting behind the scenes as well, aren't you?
Absolutely, and they've just done everything right this weekend, and they've played the strategy perfectly, and at the same time, obviously, the drivers have done a fantastic job for the team, and there you go, confirmation. Race 18, winner, René Rast. 4 out of 4.
Well, he's pretty pleased about that. I'll tell you what, I almost questioned myself. Oh, Nico Muller is going to go for this, you know, because he got the DRS flap open, hadn't he?
He was definitely looking feisty on them last couple of laps, and I'm sure that René was having a good look in his rearview mirrors, but no, so I think Nico understands that the fight for the championship is hotting up, and René needs all the help that he can get.
Well, he is within a shout now, isn't he? So this then, the race-winning overtake perhaps, as he went up the inside of Nico Muller through the Remus turn. See it again from a different angle then. So difficult to get the traction out of that turn, isn't it, to get it absolutely right there. That was the reaction from Arno Zenzen then, and this in replay then as he heads towards the checkered flag to make it 4 wins in a row for René Rast. And there was the checkered flag. Wow. More drama, and of course what it does, it plays nicely into the final showdown, doesn't it? The conclusion of the season in Hockenheim, right in the middle of October. If you've not made any plans for that particular weekend, may I urge you, flight to Frankfurt. It's less than an hour from Frankfurt to Hockenheim. Well worth coming down.
Absolutely, and it'll be absolutely action-packed, and I'm sure there'll be some great celebrations after the races as I think that's fair to say you're in your box there, mate.
Oh, that's great.
Racing drivers can race, but they can't park, as they say. Gary's miles away from here.
Yeah, he's done it properly, hasn't he? So, René then...
cheers, mate.
I'll tell you what, you don't want to park it next to him in the supermarket, do you?
Brilliant stuff.
Goodness me.
Proper characters.
I wonder secretly what would be going through Gary's mind here. Whether he'll be pleased that he was able to bank P3, or whether obviously, you know, he's got to be disappointed because he started pole position. And if you start pole position, you want to win the race, don't you? And you expect almost to win the race, don't you, Ricky?
We were expecting, like we said, we had a little chat before, didn't we? And we were expecting Gary maybe with the way that he performs when he's at the front just to sort of check out and go. But oh, he's even got himself a cake as well. Don't eat that before you go on the scales. Oh, it's got strawberries on it. It's one of his 5 a day.
He's congratulated there by Daniel Schuster and Stefan Moser, actually, incidentally, in the picture there as well. Really good guy from Audi, Stefan Moser. And there, he's going to have his cake, Ricky, despite what you said.
I was just about to say, do you reckon this could be... what do you reckon them tyres are like on that cake? Do you reckon they've been cooked nicely on the inside and then crispy on the outside?
Right, we're not getting into your cookery again. Sorry, mate. We had enough of that yesterday. There is Arno Zenzen then.
Happy faces all round.
I mean, he is... You know, I've been talking to a lot of people about René, and, you know, he is one of these... extraordinary drivers in that, you know, he takes everything very, very seriously, and he's very factual, and all the last minute detail he's looking at works very, very hard. You know, nothing is taken for granted. You know, he works hard at the success he has. That's what I'm trying to say. It's a bit of a long-winded way of saying that, but you know, he does as much in terms of preparation as well. And congratulated there by Gary Paffett is Nico Muller. Nico Muller, of course, you know, we shouldn't lose sight of the fact he's had a good weekend, hasn't he? 2 podiums.
Nico's done an absolute fantastic job this weekend, and probably one of the strongest drivers for Audi. But at the same time, he's scored great points for the team and also for himself.
And presumably, Audi will look at this and realise that, you know, Nico is very much a team player, isn't he?
Yeah, and that's what teams look for. They look for someone that can be fast, but also play the team game as well. And he's certainly done that this weekend.
So 100 DTM races then celebrated there. As here's confirmation of the result then. René Rast taking the win from Nico Muller and Gary Paffett, P2 and P3. Then it was Paul di Resta, Joel Eriksson, Pascal Wehrlein, Timo Glock, Mike Rockefeller, Philipp Eng, Eduardo Mortara, rounding out the top 10. Then it was Danny Unkadea, Jamie Green, Robin Freins, Marco Wittmann, Bruno Spengler, Loic Duval, and then it was Sébastien Ogier, and of course the 2 retirements were Lucas Auer and Augusto Farfus. René Rast, what a weekend you have had. He's with Verena now.
What an amazing weekend for René. Congratulations. It's your 4th victory in a row. You got cake and everything. You're a brilliant racer. I'm not so sure about the parking. That was quite funny. But congratulations. You really did a phenomenal job.
Yeah, I cannot really believe it. It's without any words, to be honest. You know, yesterday starting 9th, today 7th, winning both races. The key obviously was the pit stop. We had a great pit stop, and we were able to overcut Gary and Paul. I had a good start, so we had very, very much a lot of positive moments this race, and even the car, you know, the pace was very good in the end, and it's just an amazing feeling, you know, and we keep the fight open till Hockenheim, and hopefully we can repeat the same in there. 2 victories would be nice, and then let's see.
I was just going to say, because doing the math, you're 30 points behind. That means if you continue like that, you've got the title.
Anything can happen, I tell you. Last year I closed over 30 points to Matthias. And now we have 2 races left, and anything is possible.
Well, thank you for making the DTM so exciting. Thank you so much, René. Back to you.
Yes, well done, and practice your parking skills, friend. Brilliant job by René Rast. Here are the driver standings. This is superb, isn't it? 229 points, 225 points. Just 4 the difference between P1 and P2, but on 199 points, René Rast. So, 25 points for a win. That means 2 races to come at Hockenheim. That's 50 points. 3 points for pole position for each of the days. That makes a total available, does it not, of 56 points?
Absolutely. There we go.
For grabs.
Quick maths. And I think that...
And based on, sorry, I'm interrupting you, but based on his form at the moment...
It's really, really dangerous, but... There's your team standings as well.
Yeah, and now Audi Sport Team Rosberg are P4 in the team standings, aren't they? They've crept up to P4 by 1 point over BMW Team RMR. Mercedes in the top 3 positions, and in fairness, they're not going to lose the lead of that. I wouldn't have suggested, but still a lot can happen. And in the sight of the Red Bull, Ricky, we've been treated to 2 fantastic, dramatic races, haven't we? And as I mentioned right at the start of the programme, when you and I launched the season for 2018 at Hockenheim, and it seems like not long ago, but actually it was back in May, beginning of May, we had 2 of the most dramatic races that we've seen in DTM for a long time. Looks like it's going to end in the same way, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's been action-packed since day one, and it's great, especially with what the changes have been, and the speculation that's been going on, and it's just fantastic to see such a hard-fought championship that's going to go right the way down to the wire, and you could put your money on any of these drivers. And it was quite funny before we sat down. René Rast will start in P8, and I said, I think we could see a surprise here today, and once again he's gone out and surprised everyone.
And I think to give he's had to drive the car like never before.
He had to take risk at the start as well.
He had to take risk at the start, and he had a brilliant start, didn't he? But also, credit should go to the team as well. They engineered that. They decided when to call him in.
Absolutely, and it was so easy just to make one small mistake. Cause that was what probably cost Gary quite a bit of time. Was that?
Well, we saw it.
2.5 seconds that in the pit stop, and the racing driver, I always says, has the easy job of just pushing pedals and turning steering wheels, and it really does show that the people backstage make a big difference.
Well, the drivers are out there on the podium. René Rast on the top step, Nico Muller on step 2. The British driver Gary Paffett then is P3 on the podium steps then. And Audi Sport Team Rosberg, of course, going to be represented on the podium as well. And the national anthem will play out for René Rast, 2 out of 2. His 4th win in a row in DTM 2018. And it's all charged nicely with electricity as we head towards the final round at Hockenheim. And national anthem will play out now for René Rast. So the anthem plays out then for René Rast on the top step of the podium. So trophy's about to be presented here at the Red Bull Ring. And here comes Mr. Andreas Gabella, the Austrian trophy presenter, to René Rast, who holds the trophy aloft. Dieter Gas there for the very left-hand side of your picture there, the head of Audi Motorsport. And René's team boss was to the left of your picture there, as the rock and roller makes his trophy presentation to Audi Sport Team Rosberg. Next up then, it is Renate Gürtschel, then the 3-time Alpine ski champion, making the trophy presentation to Nico Muller. He's had a very good weekend, and it's been slightly overshadowed by what's happened for René Rast.
Absolutely, and it'll be interesting now to see if he can continue this form going into Hockenheim, because one person that will be needing him to do that will be René. He'll be needing his mate.
Thomas Drebin, the Kitzbühel downhill winner 2018, making the trophy presentation to Gary Paffett. He takes that P3. He's still very much in the championship chase, and I'll tell you what, you certainly wouldn't guess that British driver, would you? Come the end of race 2 at Hockenheim, at the beginning, in the middle of October. So all the drivers will get together on the podium then for the photographs. And I urge you, if you've not made plans for 12th to the 14th of October, and you fancy a little trip out to what is a very nice part of Germany, Hockenheim is the venue for the final round of DTM for 2018. Champagne goes, and Gary Paffett makes sure that René Rast gets plenty of it, and Nico Muller's not going short either. I don't know whether there's something different about those bottles, Ricky, but I like the way they, you know, you can almost bang the bottle on the ground and then it just erupts, doesn't it? I really quite like that. I've never been in a position in a somewhat pitiful racing career where I did nothing. Nearest I've come is opening a can of Coke.
You can try it with a can of Coke if you want, mate.
Oh, okay.
But no, I think it always tastes a little bit sweeter when they're on the podium, and look at these shots. They're great.
They're great, aren't they? Well done, René Rast. So René Rast, Nico Muller, Gary Paffett, then the 1, 2, 3, and I'll tell you what, Muller is making sure that René does get properly mullered. I mean, look at that.
That's like when it's in your eyes as well.
That was like having a pressure washer on you, wasn't it? Goodness me.
He's got rid of all the sweat, but he's now going to be properly sticky for the next couple of hours until he gets... That's the worst thing as well, when you got to drive home. And the famous bottle drop, it's a great success.
Well caught, sir. Gary Paffett then takes P3, banks valuable points, of course. He's with Farina.
Gary, yeah, right now at this point, I guess, congratulations, first of all. Oh, yeah. Oh, that was the wrong one. Congratulations to a third place, and you're ahead of Paul. I guess at this point in the championship, you're just happy to bank the points, and also you're catching up. I mean, 4 points. So right now, what are you feeling? How happy are you?
I mean, we have to be happy to be on the podium. You know, this is such a tough championship, so we have to be happy to be on the podium. But obviously starting from pole, it's disappointing not to win, but we didn't do a lot wrong in the race. The Audis just were a little bit quicker in the race today. You know, I mean, I had a bit of a battle with Paul, and we lost a little bit of time at the pit stop, but after all, I don't think I would have caught them anyway. So pretty happy to be. I mean, third place was the best we could have done today, really. So yeah, very much in the championship fight, going to Hockenheim, a circuit that I go well at, that I really enjoy. So yeah, pretty good day.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Gary. Back to you.
Yes, a circuit that he does go well at, and it's all going to be played out as we see some of these fantastic images of just how much curb he's taken and not taken, and you can see the Gary Paffett car there. It's almost sliding, isn't it, as you try and control it off those curbs, and the same too for Paul di Resta. Wonderful images these are, and the wonderful skill these racing drivers have in terms of racecraft and being able to judge exactly how much curb and not too much curb to take.
Absolutely, you can almost see they're almost drifting through some of the corners.
Yes.
But it's not, you're not on the opposite lock. You're just going back to almost a neutral steering position.
Yes.
In the middle of the corner, and that's what they call the sort of the rotation. And obviously, if it starts to over rotate, you can get a big drift on, which is going to damage the tyres. But
that's another really nice piece of camera art, isn't it? As the car's out of focus behind the flowers here, the wildflowers growing here in Styria. Nico Muller then is someone that I think has had a fantastic weekend as well. It's perhaps been a little overshadowed. Here's Verena with him now.
Nico, you did a brilliant job, fantastic race, and also, I mean, thanks to you, Audi is getting a bit closer to winning the championship, perhaps. So, how happy are you with the second place?
Yeah, very pleased. Today was a great day. I think qualifying was probably the highlight. I was really happy with how the car felt in qualifying. Also in the race, things worked out perfectly. The team did a great job in terms of strategy and everything. René was really fast right after the pit stop, so I didn't want to make his life too hard and lose time battling between two Audis. And I kind of recovered towards the end. I felt a bit quicker, but again, I mean, every point counts, so I didn't want to end up in a battle and maybe make the Mercs catch up. So in the end, all good as it is.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Nico. And well, that was certainly a very exciting weekend here in Spielberg. And in 3 weeks, we've got the big finale at the Hockenheim Ring. So you certainly do not want to miss that. For now, enjoy the highlights and see you in 3 weeks in Hockenheim. Thank you and bye-bye.